Welcome to BALLBUSTERS Uncut and After Show. I'm your host Nathan Oakley, and if you're new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe and hit the bell notification icon to keep up to date with the Flat Earth debate. If you'd like to support this channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they premiere. There's also PayPal, Patreon and crypto link in the info box below the video. Now, I'd usually do a quick shout out to all of the people who do support me on Patreon, but unfortunately we have been plagued with technical issues. So I'm hoping that a minute into the pre-show I can actually get this live recording going and we can start broadcasting on the Quantum Eraser channel. So I'm going to try this again, hopefully with a few jiggery pokery changes. I've managed to get this work. We will soon find out. Welcome to BALLBUSTERS Live. I'm your host Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, the Quantum Eraser channel, then be sure to subscribe and hit the bell notification icon to keep up to date with all the Quantum Eraser goodness. If you'd like to support this channel, there is a PayPal link in the info box below this video and a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they are live. Now, we are joined by Paula, Chocolate Sane, Arwin, 10th Man, and Quantum Eraser himself. Very good to have you all. Welcome to BALLBUSTERS.
Good evening.
Hello, hello.
Hello, hello.
Good afternoon.
Hello, what's up?
You forgot Ranty and Anthony.
Are they both here now?
Yes.
Oh, very good to have you both. We've also got Ranty of the Ranty Flat Earth channel and Anthony of Sleeping Warrior channel. Very good to have you both as well.
Good evening.
This is going to be a masterclass in science. My apologies for the late start. Unfortunately, after an OBS update, it did cause havoc with the stream and made it almost impossible to actually take place. So thank you for bearing with us if you've hung around in the Quantum Eraser stream.
Yeah. So it's working. Everything's golden. You found it. Yes?
Yes, we are live. I'm watching this on YouTube.
Wait. So I'm going to have some surprises for me later on, since I did the same thing. So I might be calling you guys back, but cool. Good job, Nathan. Under pressure too, man.
Yeah, I had to shut the whole thing down there. I lost my half an hour recording beforehand, but such is life. That's just the way it goes. We had anything from you, Paula? How are you doing, Paula?
Better than last week, which is happy to say, because I could have been injured a lot worse, but so happy to be here.
Paula was in a car crash about a week ago.
Yeah, no fun at all.
Not.
That's what happens to Globetrotters
right,
every
Paula.
day.
Car crash.
What's that?
Car crash. Every day. Globetrotters.
Every day.
Now you can.
Well, I
relate
died
to-
my turn.
Say again, Paula?
I said I've had my turn. It's somebody else's turn now.
Right. Have we not got Betty today?
She was in the
No,
chat.
No, we don't have Betty today.
Oh, that's a shame.
She's in the chat, though.
Hopefully, we'll see yourself, Paula, on Ranty's channel over the next, or in the upcoming week. Obviously, he's got he had a ladies' night planned, but it got cancelled at the last minute, and I'm hoping you'll be one of the participants when he actually does do that show.
Well, half the time I don't get notified, and the show's already on when I get there. But yeah, I did find that one eventually, and wondered why there were no ladies on panel. But then I figured it out, so it's all good.
Well, what's up? What's up with the notification issue? That's been an ongoing problem, like for the past 6 or 8 months. Are they going to fix that, or what?
No.
Who knows?
I've never gotten any bell notifications from the Nathan show since I subscribed like a year and a half ago. The only time I get notifications is when I hit set reminder. That's it. Bell notifications don't work at all for me.
What you need to do is you need to unsubscribe, resubscribe, and then click the bell, and that works.
I've done that.
I noticed with Nathan that I was unticked on the bell, and I'm like, well, no, I wasn't. I had the bell ticked like a month ago, and when I checked today, it was unticked. So I unsubscribed to him, and then I resubscribed and ticked the bell. So hopefully that will work.
And now it works?
Yeah, well, it's still belled up, so...
I'm always belled up, but I never get any bells. It doesn't work for me.
It needs more cowbell.
It needs, and now the cowbell.
I've had several people tell me that they've been unsubscribed as well from Nathan Oakley 1980. So right about the point that I'm hovering over the 15,000 mark. In fact, having reached it for about 25 seconds, and I've now just started getting people. I have had it once before in my YouTube career, but I've had people saying I've been unsubscribed. I didn't get a notification, and the reason why is because I'm not subscribed to you. Now I'm subscribed again. So people are being unsubscribed from Nathan Oakley. I know other YouTubers have the exact same thing, as have I in the past, but it's one of those things that's just frustrating, and there's not a great deal you can do about it.
Do you want to plug your channel full name there, Nathan?
Of course, I'm not on my channel, right? So Nathan Oakley 1980. Subscribe today for Flat Earth Debate. Enough foreplay yet, John?
Nah, that's not enough foreplay. We've been going for like 28, 28 minutes. That's not enough for me to keep doing.
We do know that Nathan likes to come in like a wrecking ball.
Right, demonstrating that inertial reference frame. Me and Miley.
Please, let's not do that again.
There's a meme for that. I made a meme for
I've seen
that.
it.
I should hope so.
Can somebody post that?
We got that to
hold
hand,
on.
Chocolate.
I did a stream just before announcing when I'm going to be doing the Loch Ness test. So I'm going to drive up on the 12th. It'll be the 13th and the 14th. So if anyone can meet me up there and help out with these tests, go watch my stream. It's only 30 minutes long. It explains everything there. And if you've got a bit of free time, heading up to Loch Ness 13th or 14th of October, and we can maybe get something organised.
That's really cool, man, Loch Ness. Well, what if you see Nessie?
If I see Nessie, I'm going to be rich, mate. It's just as simple as that. I'm going to be rich.
I reckon you got more chance of spotting Nessie than you have spotting curvature.
Yeah, that's quite possible.
Doesn't Jimmy Page have a house up there? Aleister Crowley have a house close to there? Do you know what I'm talking about?
Next to Loch Ness. Do you think Aleister Crowley lived by... I mean, that might be true, but that's news to me.
Yeah, Jimmy Page, Led Zeppelin bought it.
Oh, wow. Okay. It's a very nice part of the world.
Around his house, then.
It's absolutely beautiful around there. I mean, I'm really looking forward to Ranty's drone footage because it's really pretty.
How do you know? You haven't seen it?
No, Loch Ness is pretty.
Loch Ness. I've seen it.
Not me.
I thought you were envisaging his video camera footage from his drone a priori, and then I realised that he was on about the drone itself. Oh, sorry, Loch Ness itself.
Yeah, the location, not the drone. Although I'm sure the drone is absolutely beautiful.
Let's hope I don't get any wonky horizons.
I would hope not.
Juddery ones.
Hope not with a gyroscope level drone.
Yeah, I hope it is a gyro. Yeah, but Ranty will have it switched off and won't turn it on because I've suggested that it would be a good idea, and he'll deliberately not turn it on.
You're saying he's going to go out of his way to create a wonky horizon on that drone?
Yeah.
It'll be a scuba drone.
Okay.
Everybody will be thinking, oh, look at that. I'm out of fucking Cyrus, Sonic.
Worried about, he contacted me earlier.
That's so good.
Ranty called me up earlier and he's like, I don't want to get it out of the box. I'll spend hours and hours playing on it. I'm like, you got to test it before you go up to Loch Ness. You got to get it out of the box and see that it can actually fly and take a video. Just don't spend 3 hours with it. Just send it up for 5 minutes. Make sure it can hover. Bring it back down. Make sure there's no Coriolis.
Yeah. Do you think that you could put it back in the box and never? But I'll be on it all the time. I'm like a kid with a new toy. I mean, come on.
I appreciate that, but by
You're
the
not
same
like
token,
a kid with a new toy. You are a kid with a new toy.
But it's a
so am
tool.
I.
Yes, I
It's a
know,
tool,
but
though.
I'd never do any work. I'd be
It's a
scared. I'd be
tool.
like, oh, I could take the drone down to the beach today.
and it's just you got to
I
test
could
it
do
before you go
this.
to Loch Ness, just so you don't get there and go, oh, I'm missing this accessory I didn't realise I needed to buy or whatever.
Like the car keys to get back home.
Well, I'll tell you
That's
what.
a
I'll
bit more
take
extreme.
it out and I'll put it all together next weekend. I'll put it all
As long as
together
you test
and
it, it's just you don't want to be in the car with something that's not working or missing a part or something that, or you're incapable of using it for one reason or another. You want to figure all that out before you get in the car and drive up there. Otherwise, you get there and go, "Oh, I've got a problem with my drone because I didn't test it."
yeah, that's true. I've only got one external. I've only got one external job now to finish, and then all my outside work's done. Then I'm on the inside job, so it's a case of it doesn't matter if it's raining. Then I can faff around with it then.
I see.
Yeah, learn how to use it too before before you destroy it. You know what I'm saying?
Destroy
Be
it.
a good idea, man. Just
You got David Weiss's
Shit
contact
happens.
information. Have you got DITRH on your Skype list?
I do, yeah.
Drop him a line. Just ask him for some tips. He's been flying a drone for a while now, a good 12 months, and he'll just give you some tips on little hinters towards getting a better job done. But why not just speak to Dirth? I'm sure he'll accommodate, and he'll tell you any hints and tips that he's
did anybody
learned.
see him? I'm sorry, Nathan.
Right, go
Did
on.
anybody
Yeah,
see
I did, and do you know
DITRH
what?
flat smacking Alex Jones?
He was on with Alex Jones, and I'm going to have to give a good moan at Dirth because he's arguing points from 2017. He was arguing density and buoyancy, and it's like, have you not been watching the flat Earth debates? Gravity's not a force is the phrase that you need, not density and buoyancy. That's 2017, Ditrag. Come on.
No, that's your voice
Right.
specifically.
Number one, big, massive kudos to DITRH for the job that he did on
definitely.
InfoWars, right? Number one, that's
Thanks.
extremely stressful. Number two, the fact that he's there in the first instance, and they gave him the time of day, and he got a good old crack of the whip, a fairly prolonged period on air. Being right at the end, he got rumpused, right? And he was class, right? He got rumpused, and what he did was
the whole
just...
time.
Well, yeah,
Alex was trying to
rumpusing him the
rumpus him
whole
all the
time.
way.
Eddie had to
Nah,
tell
but he
him
got
to
through,
let him
man.
talk.
Yeah.
one at a time.
Eddie
Eddie
Bravo.
had to tell him.
Look, I
let
know
him
you're all
talk.
Bravo
excited
had it
about
bad.
Dirth, but one at a time. Come on.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, Eddie Bravo was a champ. He was there, and he was shutting Alex Jones up every time he was starting to rumpus. He shut him up, and he gave Dirth the time that he needed. Literally, the guys that were on the patio, there was Eddie Bravo and a guy sat next to him, and they were both flat earthers. Even the expert guy, this scientist guy, whatever that they brought in, was talking about Admiral Byrd too. So it was like 4 against Alex Jones, and he just sat there. And in the end, he actually invited him in to the studio to do a presentation. He said he'd fly him out to do a presentation. Absolutely first class.
Yeah, it just, before anybody's negative, I just remember Mark Sargent going on whatever the show's called, Good Morning Britain or something, Piers Morgan, and he just got grief. You could have said this, you should have said that, it would have been better if you did this, why didn't you challenge? No, he's on national television talking about flat earth. That just requires a bit of kudos, a bit of praise, a tap on the back, not a moan about his presentation being a little bit, by our standards, bearing in mind we're on the bleeding edge of this debate, we can't really criticise him for having his arguments needing a bit of spit and polish. I think he did an exceptionally good job.
Yeah, he did. I wasn't having a moan there. Let's just be clear.
Especially considering who he was talking to. I mean,
Right.
it's Alex Jones.
Exactly.
Definitely. He did an awesome job, I think.
I agree.
And Eddie Bravo,
But-
kudos to him because he let the conversation go. But the amount of times that he had to stop Alex and say, hey, let him talk.
Yeah,
You know? Like,
Mhm.
just be reasonable. The other guy was a little, I don't know. He was a little
Loud.
much at times.
Little
But-
loud.
Yeah. So,
Just for the avoidance of
Yeah,
doubt, I
but-
wasn't complaining. I was simply saying that he's behind the times. That's all. He's
behind
not a
us.
force. That's
He
up
is.
to date.
Yeah, but what
he
I thought
is.
was best about what he did is he put down the cognitive dissonance paradigm so well. He really gave a good feel for it. And
Well-
Alex didn't successfully interrupt him at it. He really tried.
I mean, Ranty called me up about this earlier and said, why don't you chat to Dearth? He's obviously hot topic at the moment. And I said, well, I've spoken to Dearth plenty. I've done loads of interviews with him. There's loads of stuff with me and Dearth on this channel. Well, this isn't my channel, on my channel. Anyway, I said, why don't you talk to him? Because the only thing I can think of that I would want to talk to Dearth about would be negative. And there's no need. You know, he does watch the show. He gets these arguments. No, he's not living it day in, day out like we are. But so, in other words, that's kind of surplus to requirements. It's not necessary for me to do that with Dearth. But Ranty, on the other hand, would just, you know, just kiss his arse, blow a bit of smoke up his arse, which is what he needs, man. It needs, you know, it needs to be out there. Kudos, Dearth, man. Good job. Bloody hell.
Yeah.
Shouldn't you recuse yourself from an assessment?
Say again?
Nathan? Shouldn't you recuse yourself from this assessment because of bias?
It's a new word. Recruit. Well, say that word again.
Shouldn't you recuse yourself from this assessment of Dearth?
I don't know
because
what
of your bias.
Recruit. I can't even say it. Recuse. Recuse.
Yeah,
what does that mean?
Recuse.
That's a new word.
Nathan, shouldn't you recuse yourself?
Don't just say this word I don't know 15 more times, please.
It's
Yes,
like
recuse.
take
Come on,
yourself
what's the
out of
problem?
the assessment.
Oh, God. Being rumpus from my ignorance.
Come on, Nathan. You know what
They're trying to say you should dismiss yourself from all comments.
No, just recuse himself from this situation with Dearth.
I'm going to Google it, bastards.
Well, that's what I meant. Dismiss himself from.
It's basically
comments about
retract.
Why?
Where the hell is
this
Because it
conversation?
isn't scientific.
I'm allowed to blow
perfect.
as much smoke up Death's ass as anybody.
John, where did you find that word?
I thought he
No
did
way you know
great.
that word.
I thought he
Hold on
did
a
great.
second. Are you challenging my friggin' my?
There's no way that word
Wait,
flows
is
off your tip of
recuse
your
a
tongue.
special word?
This
I
is just
thought it was
semantics.
just a normal. I know what recuse means. It's
Bollocks.
not some.
I didn't expect this.
There's no way.
He
me and Nathan
refused
would be
your
on the gaze of the village
recusation.
right now.
Recuse isn't that serious.
The best way to explain recuse is like if you've been charged with a crime and you've got somebody that the opposing lawyer, let's say, knows you. Well, the opposing lawyer might have to recuse themselves from obviously doing the trial because he knows you and he might be biased towards you. So
Right, that's pretty close. I got the definition up. Challenge, open brackets, a judge, prosecutor, or juror, close brackets, as unqualified to perform legal duties because of a potential conflict of interest or lack of impartiality.
That's right. And
Exactly.
that's exactly what you have because Dearth is your handler.
Yeah, that's true. Getting the script from him does kind of leave me a bit
Yeah, he
biased.
does write the script.
That's true.
Well, let's draw a line under this and say that for 2 hours, Flat Earth was discussed on Alex Jones's channel, InfoWars, which never in the past has allowed anything to be talked about Flat Earth. So it was a massive win. It gets out to about 1 million people. Easily, 1 billion people are going to see that. So that's just fantastic.
I agree.
Yeah, 3 flat earthers on the panel talking to him. That's pretty big. In one shot.
Well,
Oh, here we go.
it technically wasn't the first time, but it was definitely the best time, with the most information being brought across, with the greatest depth. I thought it was the most successful time. But hey, there's been flat Earth activities there before, you know.
Yeah, Savanier spoke to Johnny Bravo, right?
Right, and also Owen Schroyer, his wingman, as it were, in the operation. He also discusses flat Earth at times, and he's a globe skeptic, outspoken about it. Haven't you heard?
Ooh.
I don't watch Alex Jones.
Well,
I mean,
actually,
I watch Dearth,
a little story about that. A little story about that. Alex Jones put a video out a few years back called Eddie Bravo Proves the Flat Earth. Now, I used to follow Alex Jones way back then, and I wasn't into Flat Earth at all. I watched that video where they sat in a pub talking about Flat Earth. A week later, I'd bought the P900 and was out doing it, and that was when I actually got into Flat Earth. Thanks to Eddie Bravo and Alex Jones. And then I met you.
Oh, wow.
And life has never been the same.
Look at that shit.
Here, Ranty, have a load of trolls. Here, have a few more.
Yeah, my channel was doing very nicely till then. Thank you very much with chemtrails and stuff. And then you come into my life.
Yeah,
And
you
really-
mentioned one chemtrail and then got bummed. Anyway.
Okay, I think we're all just about wet enough now. So should we get on with it?
I don't know if I can turn this off. This turned out, it was a train wreck at first, but now, and that's usually the way it goes, right? From train wreck to, I like it. Continue. Or do you guys want to get started?
Oh, I've got to get you screen shared while I've got the.
No, you're not screen sharing my screen yet.
Okay.
What's going on? Did somebody show that Miley Cyrus meme?
Yeah, I did.
Oh, jeez.
Want to share
Okay.
it? Do you want to share it?
Shout out to
Okay,
Zanuck.
sure. Hold on.
Share it.
Was it Zanuck that came up with, or was it Zinda?
No, it was who did the meme? It was Hyena.
No. Who was Miley Cyrus? That conversation, was that with Zinda?
Oh,
or
that
Zanuck?
was Zanuck.
Oh, Zanuck. It was
Zanuck.
Zanuck. Oh, okay.
Did it start with Zanuck or Cinder?
Oh, there we go. Somebody sharing.
Hold on. Yeah, I have to
That was
dig.
Zanuck.
Right. There you go.
Oh, jeez.
Oh, Miley
Oh,
fucking
my
Cyrus,
goodness.
Zanuck. Very good.
I knew it was coming.
Yeah, I was hoping there'd be memes. Not exactly what I was hoping for.
Oh, man.
It's
So let's get this show on the road.
All right. You want let's start off. Does anyone have anything else to say about this?
No. I think we're all good.
All right. So listen, before we get to the Master Science presentation, which we weren't going to get through the Master Science presentation to begin with, because it's too comprehensive, it was too long, and I was going to bust it up anyway. So before we do that, I'd like to concretize my position on a subject. So
Just before
just
you
hear
do,
me out.
sorry. Can you just stop? Just so it's taken seriously. Can you take me off screen as Miley Cyrus, please? Just for this. And then once you're done, if you can represent your screen, QE, and then no interruptions, please. Mike's all yours, QE.
Yeah.
Just one thing, Nathan. Can you tell me what concretize means?
Concrete.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, can you take this stuff off? This is quite disturbing. Other than the more cowbell. Do we got that screen off?
Another new word though, concretize, to make concrete, right? Firm up.
Yes. Firm up. Yes. Are we good?
We're all good. I've taken Skype off, so it's just a boring background for you to make your announcement.
That's fine. It's not an announcement. Like I said, I just wanted to firm up my position on a subject. So here's the problem. We have pretender clown lumberjacks that have slimed their way into the real lumberjack community and taken up residence. They frequent all the real lumberjack watering holes and start putting their feeble Tootsie Roll dick moves on the real lumberjack women. You see, when the real lumberjacks that have devoted their lives to lumberjacking, slaving to learn the trade through their blood, sweat, and tears, come across a fraud pretending to be one of them, the lumberjacks are going to be none too happy about that. They're going to immediately expose, then wall-to-wall counsel the frauds, pretending to be something they're not. So, I'm not going to apologize for exposing snakes in our midst with language that might offend your snowflake ears. Flat earthers, have you ever served in an infantry unit? Ever served in a forward area? We live in a world that has walls, and those walls have to be guarded by men with a comprehensive science acumen, unswerving physical and moral courage, critical thinking skills, and an unquenchable thirst for truth. Who's going to do it? You, Joe Flat Earther? you, Sally Weinberg. I have a greater responsibility than you could possibly fathom. Fonda terrorist sympathizers weep for crayon-munching globers that laughingly appeal to their snowflake feelings being hurt because they haven't a wisp of coherent argument or science acumen, and is their last port in the storm. Well, you have that luxury. You have the luxury of not knowing what I know, that demoralizing and exposing clinical-level Dunning-Kruger pretender clowns, while seemingly tragic and harsh, saves lives. And my existence, while grotesque and incomprehensible to you, saves lives. You don't want to know the truth because deep down in places you don't talk about at parties. You want me on that wall. You need me on that wall. I use words like honor, code, loyalty. Phrases such as the scientific method, the Coriolis effect, and the second law of thermodynamics. I use these words and phrases as the backbone of a life spent defending something. They use punchline. I have neither the time nor the inclination to explain myself to people who rise and sleep under the blanket of protection that I provide and then question the manner in which I provide it. I would rather you just say thank you and went on your way. Otherwise, I suggest you pick up a science acumen worth speaking of and some critical thinking skills and stand to post. Either way, I don't give a damn what you think the ball-tard spinning space monkeys are entitled to. Is this clear? I say again, is this clear?
Did you call Arwen a crayon muncher?
Make no mistake, I'm going to code red these clowns. Savvy? Thanks.
Did you call him a crayon muncher?
Can't handle the truth.
Very good. In short, don't be a pretender clown muppet.
All right, we ready for the science presentation?
We are.
Do it.
You are presented.
Everything's looking good?
Yeah, try and keep interruptions till the end. Will we go to Discord in between or right at the end?
Well, we'll see. Let's just play this by ear because, like I said, we started late and this was going to be too long to begin with. So we'll just play it by ear. I'll let you know.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, ready when you are.
All right. Let's start off. This is the normal, pretty standard starting off that I've been doing for about 3.5 years now. Let's go over it. And by the way, I'm not rushing through this. There's no chance I'm going to do it that way because I always feel rushed when doing this. No. This is molasses in the wintertime. So it's going to take a few weeks. Let's start it off. Paleontology, anthropology, archaeology, geology, evolutionary biology. Yeah, I'm still laughing. Theoretical physics, non-experimental. Astrophysics, astronomy, and cosmology. People, these are not frigging sciences. Basket weaving is more scientific than these clowns combined. The first 6 pretenders up here can't even get to the first step of the scientific method science. Observe a phenomenon without time machine. So they ain't science right off the bat. That's real easy right there. The final 3 masqueraders, the ones in our genre, astrophysics, astronomy, and cosmology, they can't formulate scientific hypotheses because they lack viable independent variables. Ergo, they can't isolate, test, and validate their predictions. The dependent variable, the scientific hypothesis. People, you have to have scientific hypotheses in the scientific method to be science, right? To be a banana, you have to have potassium, complex carbohydrates, right? If you freeze bananas, it destroys B6. That's what makes bananas bananas, right? You have to have those characteristics and traits. Just like science, you have to have hypotheses. You can't get around it. The true sciences are quantum mechanics, i.e. physics, genetics, chemistry, biochemistry, and biology. Now, there's a caveat with these guys. Each claim from any of these disciplines, that's quantum mechanics, genetics, chemistry, biochemistry, and biology, must be accompanied by experiment, preferably repeated, and validating each claim. If there's no experiment with these guys, guess what? It's horse pucky. You just can't say, oh, it's quantum mechanics. No. Or genetics. And just give them your just so story. No. We need experimental validation. If you claim it, I want the experiment. So do not fallaciously indict the actual sciences as pseudosciences. If you do, I'm going to put your butt in a sling, and it's been happening for the past 3 or 4 months, and I predicted it. What's happening here is crayon munching flat earthers are indicting quantum mechanics, genetics, chemistry, biochemistry, and biology, the old Pete and Pete routine, after I've been warning you not to do that. What they do is they categorize them up here with the pseudosciences, and they just do it by fiat because somebody put the term science over the walkway. Well, don't do that, because these are just pretender clowns up here, whereas these guys with experiment are not. Does everyone understand this? I'm going to stop right here. I think this is important to stop. I never stopped at the end of this, but I'm stopping now. Questions, comments?
Yeah, why did you accentuate ASS at the beginning of astrophysics?
Did I do that?
You did, yeah.
Oh my.
Moving on.
I think that's spelled incorrectly, John.
Okie doke. Maybe start ladies first, Paula?
Nothing really to add. It's pretty straightforward. Science has a definition, and you have to follow it if you want to call something science. It's pretty straightforward. I really don't have something to add to that.
Auntie? Chocolate? 10th man?
I would say it sounds to me like John needs cowbell. Make claims. If you need cowbell, follow that up. And, I'm behind that 100%. Let's prove our claims. Let's find the actual scientific experiment that proves what they're saying. I'm okay with that.
You there, Anthony?
Yeah. I do have something to say. I'm looking for the file, so what I'll do is I'll postpone until I find it, and then just come back to me a bit later on when I've found it. The minute I say, the minute you say okay and you move on, I'll find it.
10th man, you got anything to add?
Just with chocolate, same thing. Validation of whatever the steps you took, so everyone could see it and it could be duplicated.
My actual point with that was people are fallaciously indicting the actual sciences. They're putting them under the umbrella with the pseudosciences and then throwing the whole lot out. That was my point. And it's been happening a lot recently if you haven't been listening.
I see, yeah, that kind of slipped me by. So yes, indeed, when people say, science has lied to us. Well, no, science is a method, and the pretender clowns who use the banner of science, they've lied to us. So when people say, oh no, if people found out the earth was flat and how much science has lied to us, then there'd be a catastrophe in education. Science wouldn't be able to weather the storm. No, science will be perfectly fine because science is a method of establishing cause and effect. Pretender clowns who use that banner, they're screwed. Your Neil deGrasse Tyson's, yeah, he's screwed. But science will be fine.
Pseudoscientists have the problem.
Precisely.
They don't have experiment. They don't have cowbell.
Yeah. So it's easy to expose anthropology, archaeology, astrophysics. It's real easy. You just ask them for their observed phenomena and then their hypothesis. And when they start Texas two-stepping on you, that's when you know you got them in the corner. So turn the flamethrower up on high and pull the trigger. That's what you do. Now, if you try that nonsense with quantum mechanics or genetics or biochemistry, that flamethrower is going to be turned on to you. So be careful out there.
Nee, did you find what you were looking for?
No, I need a few more minutes. I do have it. I'm just trying to remember what folder I've saved it in. I have too many folders. Too many hard drives, too many folders.
We
We can move on.
Well, I was going to say, just to maybe kill a bit more time, I can ask Discord for their opinions.
Oh, that's right. That's fine. Okay.
Anybody got any comment on science and pseudoscience from Discord? Oh, have I got to take people off mute?
I do want to plug my most recent upload. It's only about 3 minutes long, 4 minutes long. I do. It's a shameless plug, I'll admit it, but it's a good explanation for how relative density can be explained without any form of gravity, downwards acceleration force, or anything like that. If you haven't seen it, go to my channel, check it out. It's only 3-4 minutes. If you don't come out of that afterwards and go, do you know what? That makes perfect sense. There's nothing down for you. Honestly, just pack your computer up and go back to work or something. Take the red pill again. Do you know what? I can't find it. It's the letter that Albert Einstein got rejected in when he applied for his doctorate. Has anybody got a copy of it?
Fortunately, not to hand. That's Discord again.
No.
They were. Hold on. I've asked them once, and I know a couple of people were trying to get in. So, did anybody have anything to add on Discord? If not, we'll move on.
Crickets.
It could be me. It could be an issue with Discord. I have constant issues with Discord. So, just give me a second.
He exited to come back in.
There we go. Yeah, I've done that. Go ahead, Travis. Or Akam Virus.
I was just gonna say, no science, no experiment, no science.
Right on.
No valid experiment, no science.
Yeah,
Exactly.
spot on. Anything
So
else?
if somebody presented something that had no experimental application, what would you expect any reasonable university to actually do, John? In the sense of, like accepting them onto their course for a PhD if they couldn't do any experimental application to it?
They shouldn't accept them.
I agree, yeah.
But
I'm just
isn't
trying to...
isn't that the whole point? I mean, like I said with the banana, to be a banana, you have to have certain characteristics or traits. Same thing with science. I mean, if you don't have an experiment or a hypothesis and the things that make up a hypothesis, then you're not science, right?
Yeah.
And where would you get an experiment in archaeology or anthropology, right? How on earth would you conduct an experiment there?
You can't.
Or more importantly, astrophysics. Where are they going to be presented any causes for the effects they're studying? Well, they're not. They're pseudoscientists.
I've got it. Finally, The Rock has come back. Oh, sorry, wrong show. Right, I can screen share if I can.
Yeah, sure.
So, John, do you want to talk me through this?
I have a question for QE real quick. If the out of the branches that you named, you said like 6 of them can't make it past the first step of the scientific method. Are there any of those that you named that can make it past the first step? And if they can, where do they fail at the scientific method?
Like I said, none of the first, how many are there? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All 10 can't make it for one reason or the other. The first 6 can't get past the first step of the scientific method because they can't observe a phenomenon. Everything's in the past with these guys. With astrophysics, astronomy, and cosmology, they're fine with the first step of the scientific method. They just can't formulate a valid hypothesis because they can't manipulate an independent variable.
Can you zoom out a little bit, Anthony? You're presented. A little bit more.
Right.
Keep going. Further. That'll do. Okay.
All right, so this is This is University of Bern, dated 1907, June 1907. Dear Mr. Albert Einstein, your application for the doctorate has not been successful at this time, and as such, you are not eligible for the position of associate professor. Now, this is the most important bit. Whilst you posed an interesting theory in your article published Annalen der Physik, we feel that your conclusion about the nature of light and the fundamental connection between space and time are somewhat radical. Overall, we find your assumption to be more artistic than actual physics. Now, when I first read this back in the day, a couple of years ago, I read it as, oh, we got rejected first time round, and I didn't think any more of it. But the fact that now when I look at this with a bit more down the experience line, I look at it and I think, so they've actually rejected it because it wasn't actual physics. They must be referencing scientific method when they're referencing actual physics, and to reject it on the grounds of artistic, they're actually referencing pseudoscience. So I guess what they're doing here, the way I interpret this, is that they're being polite and professional and saying, you're a pseudoscientist. John, would you agree?
I would agree, and they shouldn't even have to do anything, right? It's either he provides the experiment with his claim or not. See, while you posed, I'm going to read it. While you posed an interesting theory, well, that's not a scientific theory, because to be a scientific theory, it would already had to be validated by experiment and repeated. So this is all nonsense anyway. Who wrote this?
Professor Wilhelm Henrich, PhD, Dean of Sciences in the University of Bern, it says.
You scroll it up a bit just so that's on screen.
Pardon?
Scroll the picture up just so it appears on screen for the audience. They can just... There you go, that's perfect.
I have to hold it there.
That's good, that's fine. That's great.
But for me, that is literally, you're a pretender clown. And what's interesting is if he wouldn't have been accepted on a university to submit his paper, right, for general relativity, that would mean that theoretically, I would think, theoretically speaking, we would probably still be accepting Isaac Newton's gravitation.
You got to stop here for a second, because I think you're assuming something that's not true. This letter is dated 6 June 1907. That's not general relativity. Because general relativity,
it must be special then.
It must be special. And just let me make a last comment here. You said that Einstein was a pretender clown. Professor Wilhelm, I can't read his name down there.
Wilhelm
Heinrich Wilhelm. You're a pretender clown also, sir, because you don't know what a scientific theory is. Thanks.
But imagine if he didn't submit his paper, right? And imagine that his two theories weren't considered to be the current science. Well, that would mean that A, they rejected it on the basis of it being not science. B, we'd probably be still accepting like other sciences instead. And C, by virtue of the fact that he did get in, this demonstrates that pretender clowns have, like John says, weaseled the way into the system and got in under the radar somehow. It's a sad state for science, it seems.
This is the first time I've seen this letter or heard of it, Anthony. Where'd you get this?
I've seen it a few times. I don't know exactly its origins, but I've seen it a few times floating around. But I've just had a different set of eyes on it this time. I've looked at it from a different perspective. And I just find that the phraseology of that line, basically, they're being polite when they say, it's a bit like when George Musa said to Craig, yeah, I like that word. That really means, yeah, you're wrong, but I don't want to say that you're wrong. This is like the same. It's like, oh, we find your assumption to be more artistic than actual physics. Was that an agreement there, Chocolate?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Craig
when he said the word manifest, he's like, yeah, I like manifest.
Yeah, in other words,
almost it didn't really manifest, but it's a nice word to use.
Yeah. That is the polite way.
I just told you
you're wrong.
It's not really a force, but you can think of it as a force.
Yeah.
So
that is literally the polite way of saying no. But somehow Craig thinks that he was like, yeah, me and Georgie, we're best of mates. Like, no. He was laughing at you, dude.
Yeah.
You can do it as it's on your channel, QE. You've had a super chat from Sam Hine. Do you want to shout it out?
Sir, I can't see the super chats, man. Sorry about that.
No
Sam,
worries.
you're the man.
Shout out to Sam Hine for hitting the super chat. Right, should we continue? You're gonna have to stop sharing, Anthony, and if you can reshare.
Okay. Wait one.
I'm not sharing, am I?
Oh, we're all good. You're on.
Are we good to go?
Yep.
Okay, let's move on to semantics because this has been popping up, right? Everyone's saying semantics. Well, yeah, duh. Right? Words, they mean things. From an unknown sage. From Anne-Marie Helmstein, PhD Biomedical Sciences. Words have precise meanings in science. This shouldn't be a shocker to anyone in an actual science discipline. If you'd say this to some, like an actual scientist, they'd roll their eyes at you. They would. Just like Mary Schweitzer's going to do here in a moment. Dr. Mary Schweitzer, paleontologist, North Carolina State. Exactly. That's one of the things I drive my students crazy on. Words count. Words are important. Choose your words carefully. Duh. So when you say semantics, yeah. Unbelievable. You know, I'll tell you what, that's why I have them define the word. Because they think they could just say the word and it's like a get out of incoherent jail free card or something. They don't even know what it means.
Blame it on Sam.
The Socratic method. Listen, people, this is what this is. The Socratic method is a method of teaching or discussion like that used by Socrates, in which by means of a series of question and answers, the logical soundness of a definition is tested. Duh. The meaning of a concept examined. Listen, we do this because it's like the basis of communication. So we define terms. So we're all on the same sheet of music so we can communicate with each other and understand each other. If I'm talking about an orange, but you think I mean an apple, then we're not going to get really far that way. Don't you think? So yeah, it's going to be semantics. Cake clouds? Unbelievable. Quick word on this.
Yeah, quick word. You mean like from us?
Yeah, anybody, feel free.
Semantics is not a dirty word. In fact, it's the essence of language. If the ballers just say, oh, it's semantics, that's actually a code word for we're getting dicked and we don't like it, so we're just going to call it semantics, put a slur to it, so that you think that you're being disingenuous whilst you make your devastating point that gravity cannot do anything because it's obviously not a force. Don't let them call semantics a dirty word, because it is the difference between knowing your shit and knowing your shit.
How dare you get misunderstandings out of the way?
Just anybody who's in BALLBUSTERS who wants to give an opinion on this, if you can just say yes and give it, because I want to go straight to Discord on this. Anybody?
I would just agree with that. Words, yes, words have meaning. And, you know, some people get mad when we ask them to define the words they're using, but if we don't define our words, what are we talking about? How do we know we're talking about the same thing? How do we know we're on the same, you know, on the same level, playing table? You know what I mean? So yeah, there's no reason why semantics is a bad thing. I don't get that, but okay. Yeah, that's it.
Well, it all depends on the perspective on it, really, because the ballers tend to want to keep their focus on their dream. And if you get semantic, if you actually go into the real details, the nitty-gritty details, then suddenly that dream doesn't really work as well. So that's why they don't like it.
Well, we like the really is level over here.
Exactly.
Yeah. Shout out to George Musa.
Mike, the line's open on Discord.
Oh, and there's
Go ahead.
Did we have a 10th man sighting?
Yeah, is it okay to talk?
Yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah, go, man.
Silence.
Yeah, I was going to say, Legolas. Yes, when I'm talking to somebody and words are being used and I need clarity, I usually don't say, well, that's just semantics. I say, well, what do you mean? Can you explain it? I'm not quite understanding you. But when we're talking to ballers, they immediately refer to the word semantics and they move on to something else, which begs that they really don't care what you mean or what you're trying to say. So
Well,
that's the context I
and
look
they
at
don't-
it in.
well,
and
they're
they don't
using
wanna
really
define it for
semantics in a slang kind of way, if you think about it carefully. This is also my original thought on it, is that when you say it's semantics, it means the other person is trying to catch you on a little technicality that's not actually important to the overarching argument. Instead, in reality, it is every time. But they accuse us from basically pointing at something really insignificant concerning language and then getting the argument stuck on that. That's what they mean with semantics, really. It's not really, it's the colloquial version. You know?
Well, I think what I'm trying to say is if they actually care, they would keep drilling down. But they don't. They just act like cowards after they say the word semantics, and they refuse to drill down to what you actually mean. The motivation's not there.
But when they do that, when they play the semantics card, it's because they're using it's actually a fallacy, equivocation fallacy, but because there's a word semantic range is what you find in a dictionary. When you look up any word, you find a semantic range, and that just means a range of meanings. Well, where does that come from? It comes from context, a range of context. And so in a science, quote unquote, context, certain words have certain very strict meanings, and you can't borrow the meaning from the dictionary that doesn't fit in that context. That's why it's an equivocation fallacy. And so that's what the game they play when they want to play that card, the semantic card, is because they want to use the equivocation fallacy. And bad logic makes bad science. It's just, you can't have, bad logic and call yourself a scientist because you're doing this fallacy. And a fallacy is an error in reasoning. And you can't have errors in reasoning in the scientific method and call it science.
Very well said.
Yeah,
very well said.
Just for summary purposes, though, if you're in a debate with somebody and they say that's just semantics, what they're actually saying is that's just words and their meanings.
Right.
Yeah, right.
So there's a few people off mute in Discord. Feel free, your line's open if you want to add anything in this regard. No, fair enough. Happy to move on if you're ready, QE.
Yeah, you ready to screen up? Yes.
Yes.
All right, so now we're on to the meat. Science. Scientia. From science and scio. Basically, what the word means is to know or knowledge, right? Then we move down to natural science because you can have a lot of sciences up here, right? To know or to gain knowledge, because you can gain knowledge depending on what that knowledge is in a number of different subject areas. But that's not what we're talking about. We're moving right to natural science. Natural science, subjects such as biology, physics, and chemistry, in which things can be seen in nature are studied, right? When we get into natural science, now we're talking about the method that we use to reach the knowledge or to know. That's what it's focused on, how we get there. Natural science from Oxford Dictionaries, the intellectual and practical activity encompassing the systematic study of the structure and behavior of the physical and natural world through observation and experiment, right? That's what it is. And I know we had a big brouhaha over this and, but I'm going to put a stake in this and here in a few moments. And I always stick this in here. From the University of Rochester Physics Labs. The scientific method distinguishes science from other forms of explanation because of its requirement of systematic experimentation. So, if you don't have this, You don't have this. You don't have this, right? You need experiment to have science. You can't have science without experiment. From Michael Crichton, testimony before the U.S. Senate Committee on Environment and Public Works, 28 September 2005. I can never say this any better or any more succinctly. Science is nothing more than a method of inquiry. Period. End of story. Let's head back to Michael Crichton, who, by the way, is a graduate of Harvard Medical School and did his postdoctoral work at the Salk Institute. Just FYI, clowns, if you try to ad hominem. Okay? From transcript at Caltech, Michael Crichton. There is no such thing as consensus science. If it's consensus, it isn't science. If it's science, it isn't consensus. Period. How you like that? And then we move to scientific evidence. Listen closely. From the Law Dictionary, scientific evidence. The testing of a hypothesis or theory that is objective in a controlled environment. You see any equations, models, gummy bears, granny socks, or pictures up in here? Huh? Do you see anything up in here that says that? If it doesn't, that means it's not a part of it. So when we ask for scientific evidence, we want observing natural phenomena. We want the hypothesis, right? We want the experiment, the test. That's what we want. Any questions? I'm going to stop right there.
You stick to the DITRH script. He didn't have granny socks in there. Any comments?
Oh, sounds good to me.
Wow, you're an enthusiastic lot. Absolutely correct, Quantum Eraser. Science is a method of inquiry. It's not the words of man. It doesn't have a body. You can't appeal to it as a consensus. It's a method. It's as simple as that. A method for establishing the cause of an effect that you will observe in the natural world. Science might be knowledge. We are interested in one thing: the physical and natural world. The flat plane we dwell atop, exclusively the subject matter of science in this regard. Natural science, the physical and natural world. I'm deeply interested in that. And there's an empirical method at our disposal to investigate precisely that.
Oh, and we're going to get to the natural and physical world here in a few moments.
I don't think anybody's got anything else to add, otherwise they would have piped up already. Do you want to move straight on?
Yeah, I did want to stop at the natural and physical world. Like I said, we're going to stop there. Well, let's see if we get to it, but I'm going to drop anchor there because we're going to be exposing a lot of pretender clowns. I can't wait. But yes, we can continue. We ready?
Yeah, ready when you are.
Yes, the scientific method. This is the scientific method I received in 5th grade. I can remember it like yesterday, him writing it on the board. It was my first exposure to actual science. It is step 1, observe a natural phenomena. Step 2, literature review. Step 3, construct formal hypothesis. Step 4, test experiment. Step 5, analyze data. Step 6, validate or invalidate the hypothesis. Step 7, report results. Now, there's a number of administrative and logistical measures in here. That's why I highlighted the 3 main steps. That's not to say that these other steps are not part of it, right? And with other citations, people put all kind of stuff in here, right? For step 2, 5, 6, and 7. I don't really care what they put in there, but they better have these 3, because if they don't have these 3, it's hogwash. Bollocks, horsepucky. Long as we're clear on that. From the University of Rochester Physics Department, the scientific method has 4 steps. Now, you see, there's a difference here, right? They said 4 steps. This has 7 steps. Well, what are they not counting down here? Let's take a look. Number 1, observation and description of a phenomenon or group of phenomena. Number 2, formulation of hypothesis. Number 3, use of the hypothesis to predict, 4, performance of experimental tests. What happens is they dropped the logistical and administrative steps, and number 2 and number 3 are basically the same. So they could put number 3 back up here in number 2, and you've got 3 steps of the scientific method. That's all they did, people. Just as long as we're clear on this. Again, here we go again. So this is from Anne-Marie Helmenstein, PhD, Biomedical Sciences. The number of steps in the scientific method, that's what we're talking about. The number of steps varies from one description to another, mainly when data and analysis are separated into a separate step. But this is a fairly standard list of 6 scientific method steps, which you are expected to know for any science class. Well, she put 6. Who cares? There's 7 up here. Who really cares? I just delineated what the 3 most important ones are. Other institutions may have other things that they add here, like I said. But if it doesn't have these 3, step 1, step 3, and step 4, then it's not the scientific method. Is that simple enough to understand? In summary, the king of the scientific method is experiment. It's birthed from the queen, hypothesis, which is birthed from the first step of the scientific method, observe a natural phenomena. The critical, indispensable steps are, again, observe a natural phenomena, formulation of a hypothesis, and 3, experiment. You cannot have science, natural science, without these 3. 66% of the experiment is the hypothesis. 50% of the hypothesis is the natural phenomena observed, which is your dependent variable. Any questions right here? I'll stop.
What about the other methods?
There is no other methods. As much as it was funny, and it was funny, on Darth's video, where my character interrupts and says methods, that's an inversion of the character I play transposed onto a Baltard. So a Baltard would assert that there are many methods. No, there are not. The scientific method is not Legion.
Indeed.
Anybody in Discord? Any queries? Anybody not understand about the singular scientific method and the 3 steps involved? Observe a natural phenomena, formulate a scientific prediction, otherwise known as a hypothesis, and perform experimentation. Any queries, questions? Anybody not understand?
Because a lot of the ballers like to say things like, what have I heard? There are as many scientific methods as there are people in the world. And, you could use whatever scientific method you want. There are many. I mean, they literally say, they act like scientific methods, like it is a legion. And what Quantum Racer is saying is like, it doesn't matter how many steps you have, as long as you have these 3 important ones, then you have something to talk about. So then you have nothing.
So for anybody who's lost on what Chocolate's just said, go back to the first part of Quantum Eraser's presentation when he distinguishes the difference between science and pseudoscience. You have to remember that if you're a fraud and you're claiming that you're performing the scientific method because you're a scientist, when in reality you're a pseudoscientist pretender clown who can't do anything more than observe a phenomena, in the case of an astrophysicist, then you're going to tell people that there's many methods. And your method, which isn't this method, the scientific method, observe a natural phenomena, formulate a hypothesis, perform experimentation, because they haven't got that method, the empirical method, they'll tell you there's many, because they're pseudoscientists. They're not adhering to the method. That's what distinguishes them as pseudoscientists. A pseudoscientist being someone who does not adhere to the scientific method. So of course they're going to tell you there's loads of them. There isn't. Any more? Or are we moving on?
We ready?
I'm hoping for at least one comment from Discord. The amount of crap we get in this regard, where people tell us that there's more than one scientific method, and then we ask them to formulate anything into any method they give us, and we don't hear jack. But yet, stony cold silence when the reality's laid out. Go ahead,
Well,
Joey.
they confuse the methods. See, like a lot of people think that correlation is a scientific method. We debate that all the time on our server. They'll go in there and they'll be like, well, Einstein observed the natural phenomena, or he predicted that a starlight would bend during eclipses, and then that phenomena was observed. So they think they got the first step, but then when you ask them to, you know, what about that independent variable? That's when they're like, oh, what's correlation? It's the best we got. And they feel that method is just as the causation method.
At which point, Jose, you call them what they are, pseudoscientists. Absolutely spot on. Yes, astrophysicists can have a claim in regards to the scientific method. They can observe a phenomena. Now, I think it was on the last BALLBUSTERS that I, not correctly so, not justified in any way because she'd done something wrong, but Paula got used as my scapegoat, basically, to say, yes, Paula points out that she has observed a phenomena. She's got step one of the scientific method. Now, she was quick to point out in her example that I was wrongly pulling apart for this example, that isn't science. Just observing a phenomena and then saying, well, I can formulate a correlation. That makes you a pseudoscientist now, doesn't it? Because you haven't got, as Jose correctly identifies, the other half of the hypothesis, the independent variable, the presumed cause of the effect, waiting for verification via experimentation. So an actual adherence to the method will give you an empirical result, one way or the other, because the hypothesis has got two sides to it. One side says you've got your prediction correct. Yes, you've got the right cause. The other side says, no, you haven't. It didn't cause the effect. So when they say, well, I can correlate the effect, well, that's lovely, but it's not science. Any more? Any more for any more? No, seems not. Well, thank you very much, Discord. Should we move on?
Yes. Let me know when it's up.
You are indeed up. The audience can see you.
Like I said, I placed this little gem throughout the presentation, lest we forget. I say again, from the University of Rochester Physics Labs, the scientific method distinguishes science. That means it sets science apart from other forms of explanation because of its requirement of systematic experimentation. That means if you don't have experiment, then you don't have science. Period. End of story. The first step, observe a natural phenomenon. From the nature of science and the scientific method, the first process in the scientific method involves the observation of a phenomenon, event, or a problem. Again, from Rochester Physics Department, the scientific method has 4 steps. We went over them above. I just pulled the first step out. Observation and description of a phenomena or group of phenomena. Pretty cut and dry here. From Niels Bohr. No phenomena is a phenomenon unless it is an observed phenomenon, right? You're going to have to see it, brothers. It's not ask a question from science buddies. It's not observe concrete nouns like trees and rocks and shoes, okay? It's not conjure a phenomena like black holes, dark matter, multiverses, singularities. The list goes on and on. That's not what we're talking about here. We're talking about your dependent variable, your observed phenomenon. You must have it. Now let's get, I'm loving this. The natural world. The physical and natural world. Well, let's stop off in the natural world first. Let's take a look at these definitions. From Merriam-Webster, Natural World. All of the animals, plants, and other things existing in nature and not made or caused by people. From Oxford Dictionaries, natural, existing in or derived from nature, not made or caused by humankind. Natural from vocabulary.com. Something that comes from nature rather than being man-made. From Cambridge, natural. From nature, not artificial or involving anything made or caused by people. Are we understanding this out there? Is this getting through? It's going to get through here in a couple minutes. I'll tell you what, Baltards, you better turn away because I'm going to get medieval on you. Natural science. This is from Oxford Dictionaries. Natural science, the intellectual, we already went over this, we're going to do it again. The intellectual and practical activity encompassing the systematic study of the structure and behavior of the physical and natural world through observation and experiment. What they're saying here is the physical and natural as opposed to man-made or supernatural. And that's what they mean. I'm going to show you that right up front here in a couple seconds. Example, can you please identify the non-physical natural or non-physical man-made? Can you show me that? Those two, please? Physical denotes chemical formula or structure, charge, mass, momentum, or spin, milli, electron volts, kcals, or kilojoules. In other words, matter or energy. Natural denotes existing in or derived from nature, not made or caused by humankind. So there's not a dichotomy here. There's a trichotomy. And there it is for you. I'm dropping anchor right here, Nathan. Just drop an anchor right here.
Okay. Good place.
Supernatural. Hold on a second. Hold on a second. Let me get this right. Supernatural. Information, time, and thoughts. Those are supernatural. The physical and natural. Trees, water, light, frogs, and sulfur. Man-made. Cheerios, barbecue grills, shoes, headphones, and Indy cars. You see, these are physical, but not natural. You understand that? These are physical and natural. These aren't natural. You're not walking out in nature and finding barbecue grills. Okay? Like I said, I'm dropping anchor. Let's drop anchor right here.
So, in essence, if you have something that is made by man and you try to establish the cause, even if it's not a phenomena in the case of shoe, but the cause is always going to be the same. It was caused by man making it. So there is no necessity for anything man-made to ever be put through the scientific method because you already know the cause. Man made it. Simple as that. Any comments, anybody? I won't introduce you
I would say, like, tree would be on the physical and natural side, right? But a table would be on the man-made side, right? Because the cause of the table.
Be careful. Tree is a concrete noun. What's happening? If you say the growth of the tree or the leaves falling off. Hold on one sec. If you say the growth of the tree, yes, that would be a natural phenomena. A leaf falling off the tree, yeah, that would be a phenomena, right? But tree isn't.
Yeah, sure. Not a phenomenon, but a noun. But it's a physical and natural noun, right? That would be on that list.
Yeah.
But a table, right? Because we've heard wood is the cause of table, right? And quote Brenda, 2019. Wood is the cause of table. And we know that's not correct.
Hey, Nathan, can you pull the screen up? Oh, sorry to interrupt.
That's all right, I'll pop it back on.
Yeah, could you, I want you to pop this back on. I want it to burn itself in the retinas of the audience. We're staying here. I'm dropping anchor. Please continue. Sorry to interrupt.
No. You're exactly right. See, the tree, I mean, you got tree on the first one on the list, right? It's physical and natural, but a table would be man-made. I just want to make that clear for a certain somebody who thinks, wood is the cause of table. That's my point.
Well, maybe let's get into the supernatural then. So let's start with time. A conceptual medium in which all things in what we call the universe take place. Put it down on the list of a supernatural thing rather than a concept. So
No, I have it down as a supernatural rather than something physical and natural, because to be physical and natural or man-made, it has to have chemical formula, structure, charge, mass, momentum, or spin, milli-electron volts, kcals or kilojoules. Does time have any one of those traits?
No.
Supernatural.
Okay. Anyone else?
How about information?
I was hoping someone else would ask exactly that.
Does information exist?
Yes.
Then it's supernatural by definition. Thoughts?
Hold on. Information. Well, I've got a book in front of me. It's got plenty of information in it. It's on paper, written in ink. That's physical.
Really?
Yes. It's physical. I've got it. I'm holding it right now.
Well, you got ink, paper, and glue molecules, right?
Yes.
That's not information. Somebody had to arrange that to make it information to transmit a message to you. Right? So that information, does it have chemical formula, structure, charge, mass, momentum, or spin?
The ink and paper do.
Yeah, the ink and paper do. But the information is semiotic. It's not a part of the physical medium. Go ahead, Chop.
He had to have enough information to actually read it and be able to understand what he's reading.
Right. As a
So
sentient
the
being,
information has to be conveyed both ways.
right. I had to be a Noah in the first instance to understand the information on the page, is what Chocolate's saying. Not only does it have to have somebody formulate that paper and ink into a way of it being discernible by me as the receiver, it had to be created by a Noah in the first instance.
Yes. Exactly.
I left the mic open the whole time on Discord. Literally not a sausage from them.
Unbelievable. That's all they do is talk about this, right? This is your death knell. I'm leaving this up here. If I could, I'll tell you what, if I could shoot out flames from this thing, I would. I'm leaving it up there. Heck with it.
Have you not got a flame emoji? I'm only joking.
Yeah. But this is really important. This is going to stop all their tomfoolery in this subject area about natural. Because everyone's saying, "Oh, what's natural? What's natural, Kiwi? Huh? This is."
Let's just try that then. Shoes are natural. They're made of, in my case, they're made of natural leather. Italian.
Do you find them in nature?
Yeah, you can definitely find leather in nature. Yes.
You could no. Now I see you switched up on me. You little tricksies. No. We're not talking about leather. We're talking about shoes.
Yeah, shoes are made of leather in this instance.
That's yeah. Do you find shoes in nature? That is, when you walk out in the woods or in a desert or anything, are there shoes everywhere? Do you just walk up on them and say, "Oh, I wonder if these fit"? Oh no, these don't fit. Let me try them.
We should have a look. Just looked outside my window. I'm not even joking, and there's a pair of shoes dangling over a phone line by the shoelaces. Does that count as being in nature?
Yeah. In the military, they used to throw, whenever they'd leave, they'd throw their boots over the lines. There did be boots everywhere. Yeah, are they nature? Jeez, oh man.
Is that a yes?
Hypothesis, it's a shoe. Brenda, 2019.
Let's have that again, Travis.
Hypothesis is it's a shoe. Brenda, 2019.
It's kind of like a value-added tax, as an analogy. You make a product, and then somebody else buys it from you, or you buy it from somebody else, and then you do something with it, maybe combine it with another product, and then on and on down the line. But that's value added isn't necessarily adding mass to it. It might be, in the presentation or packaging or something, it's just adding something perceived as value, and therefore that value is taxed. We're not going to talk about taxes, but the point is that any kind of phenomenon, and that's my little pet peeve today, one phenomenon, two phenomena. The mismatch drives me nuts. But anyway, you have to have, for information, you have to have a code, an encoder, and a decoder. For information to exist, it has to have something passed between two entities that either send the code or receive the code and decode it. And that's why the book by itself is not information. It has a bunch of ink and letters and things in it, but they are not information unless everybody agrees, like even the same language. Like earlier people were saying it was a fake letter from Einstein or to Einstein because it wasn't written in German. Well, if it was written in German, nobody would understand it. That doesn't speak German. That wouldn't be information, even though to someone else it's information, because there's no decoder. So you have to have elements to it. That's just like with the shoe. It has to have elements to it, not just leather, which, by the way, is not natural. It is the skin, say, of a pig or a cow that has been treated and tanned and messed with to make leather. It doesn't occur naturally. But the skin occurs naturally. And maybe the tanning tools and material, the tools wouldn't unless they were just a plain old stick or a rock or something like that. But it isn't even a tool unless you do something with it for a purpose of changing something or extracting something. So it's going back to the equivocation fallacy and the semantics, is because you have to have context for saying something is natural or supernatural. And that's what they leave out, and they insist upon leaving out because that's the only way they can try to tell you you're wrong, is by artificially narrowing the definition of the word.
So absolutely spot on, Paula. Bible literalist, everyone. For more profound thoughts and poignant moments, subscribe to Bible literalist immediately. Absolutely spot on, Paula. Yeah, very succinct and concise.
Thank you.
Yes, exactly.
It was beautiful. Anything else, or do we just want to drop anchor some more? Because I'm loving this. Every second of it.
I think when it's at that moment where it's really concise, it's like in the debate, when they haven't had the opportunity to rumpus the living crap out of the point you're making, what you're met with is stone cold silence. Now you'll hear a repetition of some nonsense that's come through while they've rumpused your point, but in these presentations I figured out why we get nothing from Discord. It's because they haven't had an opportunity to make the point less clear. It's very clear what's being described here. As you put it, we've dropped anchor and there is no response to it. This is the reality of how science works and what they are looking at in terms of the physical and natural world when you study a phenomenon. A phenomenon.
No,
I'm watching you.
Yeah, I knew that was at me. I do it all the time.
Everybody does it all the time, and it's like, a phenomenon, many phenomena, please. Spare me.
Hey Nathan, I thought she was talking about me because I screwed it up a number of times above.
Yeah, I was reading it and you were changing the tense.
Yeah, I did it. I know, I read it. That's so funny. Yeah. And then when she said that, I said, oh man, she's talking about it.
Busted.
Yeah, me too. I was cringing. I was thinking, God, this is me, isn't it?
Yeah. Anything else on here?
I don't think so. I think it's time to move on.
Well, we're not going to move on too far, and we are going to wrap it up with this topic because we've been going now for it'll be coming up on 2 hours. But so I think we're going to wrap it up with this topic. Is my screen still up?
Yeah, you're still up.
let's expand on this a little bit more. We're going to go over a little bit again for another point. So again, natural world from Merriam-Webster. All the animals, plants, and other things existing in nature and not made or caused by people. Oxford Dictionary's natural, existing in or derived from nature, not made or caused by humankind. Natural from vocabulary.com, something that comes from nature rather than being man-made. And from Cambridge, natural, from nature, not artificial or involving anything made or caused by people. So, let's just for argument's sake, let's entertain the Sfurfer's argument and allow man-made objects as natural phenomena and see how it shakes out, right? Let's just do it. Let's put a man-made object as the dependent variable. Before we do that, let's stop at Kennesaw State and discuss a law versus a theory. A law describes what nature does. A theory explains how nature works. These are very important. Descriptions versus explanations. Descriptions are always about the what or the is. The explanations are always about the how and the why. Everyone got that? That's going to be a lesson that's going to be a repeating refrain over the next few weeks. But to the main point. So brain surgeons, are they talking about lawnmower theories and toaster oven laws? Or pendulum theories? Or is it pendulum laws? How about bowling ball theories or bowling ball laws? You see, when I go through Google Scholar, I am just overwhelmed with all the scientific theories I have to go through with bowling balls, toaster ovens, refrigerators, axles. I'm just overwhelmed in natural science with that. You'd fail 5th grade general science. Period, ballers. But we already knew that a long time ago, didn't we? I'm just exposing it systematically. How you like me now? Furthermore, as we'll see below, the entire goal of the scientific method is to elucidate or reveal cause and effect relationships. That's the entire goal of the scientific method. Well, aren't man-made objects caused by man? Eh? Then pray tell, why would we need to scientifically investigate them then? We already know the cause. My word. Let's keep it simple. A 2-step algo for you. Step number 1 is the inquiry concerning A, nature, or B, a man-made object. If it's B, then it isn't a valid scientific inquiry. If it's A, continue to step 2. Step 2 is the inquiry, i.e. the effect. A, cause and effect question, or B, a what is question. If it's B, then it isn't a valid scientific inquiry. If it's A, then proceed to the first step of the scientific method. And remember, from the University of Rochester Physics Labs, the scientific method distinguishes science from other forms of explanation because of its requirement of what? Systematic experimentation. It's required. That means you can't have science without experiment because it's required. It's part of the scientific method. Now, we are going to stop right here for today. So this presentation is going to be in 3 or 4 parts. Now, this Tuesday, if I get OBS working, we're going to go over some of the things we talked about and maybe preview some of the things that are going to come up on the next BALLBUSTERS. Okay? So thanks for your ear. Have a nice day.
Nice presentation. Thank you, Quantum Eraser. So I'm happy to go for about 10 more minutes live if we've got any further comments, and then plug the hell out of the Flat Earth debate, which is starting in 10 minutes over on Nathan Oakley 1980. But before we do, Any comments from anybody, first and foremost, on the BALLBUSTERS panel? We'll open the mic on Discord if there is anything anybody that in there wants to add as well.
Not for me. You guys did well with your phenomenon and phenomena. Congrats.
I remember having a lot of trouble with these kind of details, but it took some time. It also was because I was biased at the time, still clinging on to gravity. So, but since that's gone now, yeah, this is all very perfectly clear to me.
Thanks for sharing your pain.
Anthony, Rantini? Poignant as ever?
I'll say something.
Yeah, go ahead, Sanfan.
It's so clear. I'm just, you know, science knows what John just shared here, so clear, and yet they violate it all the time. And this is the struggle we have with the Globies. We're just saying, look, it's right there. It's from your side of the argument, the science side of your argument that you're saying, and yet you're going towards the pseudoscience who ignore such a clear teaching. So I'm glad John is camping out and over 3 lessons, so we just get this thing buried deep into our subconscious as well.
Any last remarks, Chocolate?
No, this has been pretty clear to me for a while now. I understand it implicitly, and it makes sense to me. You know.
I mean, the only thing I would say. I'll go on, Chocolate.
No, I was just gonna say. I mean, you need systematic experimentation. It just makes sense. Why wouldn't you want that? Why wouldn't you be after that? Why wouldn't you want to validate your claim and make sure that what you believe is actually what you know, instead of just having to believe it and have faith in it, right? I want to know what's going on. I want the truth. I don't want stories, just those stories or whatever stories. I don't care about that. Prove to me what you're saying is true. And I'm okay with that. So, thanks, John.
What I was going to add as well is, at the end of the presentation, it's worth bearing in mind what we said at the beginning. What are the pseudoscientists and what have they got to offer in regards to the adherence to this method, the method of science, the scientific method, not legion? Well, they can adhere to one step only, observe a phenomena, and then they come up with a just so story or offer a mathematical correlation. That's as good as it gets for a pseudoscientist. But they can often stretch out the fact that they're observing phenomena quite far. They look at their phenomenon, individual, and say, here's my just so story for how that happened. They don't actually establish a cause. They don't formulate a hypothesis with a null. They just give you a just so story. And every one of those people on that list will do precisely that. Some of them don't even have a phenomenon to begin with. Yeah, good presentation. Any more for any more? Is that where we round out the live show? Finally hear something from Discord?
4 more hours.
maybe. That I will say. A huge, massive, enormous thank you to all of today's BALLBUSTER panel for making this BALLBUSTERS possible, and of course a massive thank you to Quantum Eraser for hosting the live show. Also, of course, a massive thank you to all of you in the Quantum Eraser live audience for smashing the super chat, hopefully liking, commenting, sharing and subscribing. If you are in need of something to do after this live show has ended, then go to nathanoakley.com and check out the Flat Earth Debate Forum, or go to Nathan Oakley 1980 YouTube channel and check out Flat Earth Debate Uncut and After Show, which is starting in about 2 minutes from now. I will put a link in the chat as the show rounds out. I've been Nathan Oakley. A massive thank you again to all of the BALLBUSTERS panel and the Discord server for making the interactive part of this show possible. I'll see you all in the next BALLBUSTERS.
Okay.
You had a super chat right at the end there, QE, from Sam Hine, sorry.
Right. You know what? I'm working on that. Because I need to be able to see them. I need to be able to interact. I got to figure out my way around it. I'll get it.
I was going to read it to you. It says, great shoe show.
Great shoe.
Yeah, Sam. yeah.
Oh, yeah. Great shoe. Very good, Sam. I was going to make a suggestion. I know you've just bought a laptop and you're very proud of how shiny it is, but it's not capable of running the show, hence me running that live show instead of you. What I might suggest, John, is over the next week, I might get you to set up a GoFundMe for like a meager amount. So I chatted with Sleeping Warrior about this, and he seems to think that for around $400 or $500, you can put together a tower instead of the laptop that you've got now, and that would be capable of making you actually run the show. I appreciate you haven't got the budget to do it, but my suggestion would be, I'll show you how to, well, I don't actually know, I've never done a GoFundMe, but maybe get Ranty involved and get him to show you how to set up a GoFundMe for maybe $400 or $500, and that'll hopefully put you in a position where you can actually run the show rather than me. But I wouldn't have thought with a bit of plugging on the debates, and this will require you doing this though, so with your laptop, actually doing as Ranty did and running the what did he call it? What did I call it from Ranty-a-thon? So for you, it'd be a QE-a-thon, but a QE-a-thon for a GoFundMe. How does that sound? Does that sound like something you might be willing to do?
Yeah, I think it's a great idea. I bought a new laptop not that long ago. Of course, I didn't have a channel wasn't in my thinking, right? I just wanted to get a new laptop, and it's a great laptop, right? However, it's not great for OBS and running all this. It just can't. The clock speed's too slow. I'm at 1.7 gigahertz. I think the minimum requirements. Yeah, I know you're laughing.
I get it. I've heard
wow.
it. Yeah, but what I'm suggesting is, if you can do away with the brand new laptop that you've just bought and spent the money on, I think if with a little bit of support from the people who watch, they'll appreciate that you're not actually capable, technically speaking, of running your own show yet. I know you've tried and it didn't go as well as you'd hoped, although the show did go out quite nicely. It's just we all know that you're on the limits of capabilities, and you'd only have to get a phone call or something and it'd probably crash the show, which isn't what anyone wants. So I think
it's razor's edge, man.
But with a small target, I think, I don't think it's not like you're going to be asking for £1,200 or something for a camera. If you can hopefully go along with what Anthony says in terms of how to budget it, it won't be a massive amount to ask for an audience, won't be a massive amount to ask from an audience.
I agree with you. I was already looking into it. I have a computer guy that lives close to me, but he's been real busy lately, and we just been able to touch base just a couple of times. And I put it together, and it was $830 for everything, but that's okay.
Can't figure out where that's coming from. Sorry. Obviously the debate started.
It didn't take long for that phone call.
I was like, what?
I'll have to figure out where it is, because at the moment I've had to I'm about to mute the Discord.
We're
line.
about to be premiered, guys.
God. I not only get cut off by all my friends, right? And then Nathan cuts me off at least 20 times during the week with the after show. I start talking, I get cut off with this. I'm my own.
Yeah, whatever you say. No, I found it.
Okay, listen, Nathan, I thought that was a great idea, even though it's going to cost, I need to get it. So it's going to be over 800, no problem. And I think you're right. The goal should be 500. I'll go with the extra 350, but I got to do it. I have no choice. I'm not going to be able to run the show without it. So I just got to do it. And thank you. That's a great idea. I think we should run with it.
Well, it's something that would benefit me because at the moment I'm basically running your live show, which is fine. It's to all intents and purposes always been your material on it anyway. So you're doing the most of the donkey work, but it just, there's a certain magic to, and you've done it, to pressing the go button yourself and having control of the show. And to me, it's, without being rude, it's a chore when it's someone else's show. You know what I mean? It's not mine anymore. So as much as I'm still obviously just as enthusiastic, it's one way that.
Yeah, you are. Yeah, you're fine. And everything you said was absolutely spot on. You're right. Now, the first show that I did went really well, but I had to be very judicious in the things that I had going at the same time. And you're right, like a phone call. I was operating on a razor's edge. A phone call would have set me up that I would have crashed. Right? So that's too funny.
That said, I mean, one thing I have noticed is that oh no, that's not correct. I was about to say the CPU usage has lowered since doing that update to OBS, but I think it just hadn't actually updated. It's just exactly as it was. Ignore me.
That could be another problem, Nathan. We might have to talk to each other because I did the update to OBS also. I don't know how can we test it if it's going to work? You have to go live.
No. The problem that I was having, which I'll still have to address somehow, is that all it was saying was if you've got a different encoder running for the recording and for the live streaming, then it may cause an issue once you do the update. Now, I actually liked it being done that way for various different reasons. It just meant that the recording would be running through the graphics card, or the other way around. This live stream would go through the graphics card, and the recording would run off the CPU. And I was happy with the extra usage to have it rendered in different formats. That's what I wanted for redundancy. But it seems now, since they've updated it, they don't like you doing that. In other words, it seems because there's presumably a lot of people that have it set that way and it causes high usage, that might cause problems for people with a less powerful PC. My PC is still, although it's 5 years old, it's still very powerful. At the moment it's running at like 12% usage, and it was probably 15% while the live show was running, which is nothing.
Right.
So I think it's just a way of stopping inadvertent, incorrect settings, making people's OBS work harder than it has to. Now, I intentionally did that, and I think it's just they don't want you to do that way. But I'll just figure out a way of diverting the recording via the graphics card or whatever. Anyway, after the fact. But now it works. Who cares? The live show went out, right?
Okay, sorry for interrupting. So that shouldn't affect me because I'm not recording anything.
Also, you're not using a graphics card to do anything. I'm using the graphics card to render the live show.
Oh. That's very interesting. Okay, so my concerns are not there's no veracity to them. I should be good to go.
It makes no difference. So you still need to get a computer that's capable of actually running a Skype call and a show at the same time. We've seen Anthony's far more versed with this than me. So with Roxanne the Globalist Denier and Dolly Daydream, they both had exactly the same problem. They're both running on laptops, couldn't basically run a proper show from the equipment that they had. They could get OBS to run, so can you, but that's basically it. Beyond the actual recording software, that you can't run anything. It's like, well, what use is that? If you're going to just play a video in OBS, literally for you, just running a video in OBS almost craps out the computer, which is no good. It just means you can't run anything beyond OBS, which is useless, really. If you're going to try and run a show from it, you need a proper computer.
Oh, yeah, I wouldn't try to run a video through OBS. I wouldn't even do that. Let me ask you a question. What's your clock speed, just to finish up business?
4.8.
Yeah, jeez. Yep. That's what I needed up there. I need at least, I'm going to shoot for 3.6, and that should be fine with 4 cores. So that's what I'm going to shoot for. Then I should be fine. There shouldn't be any problems. I'm sitting here worried every time during the live show, I was just sitting here concerned that my system was going to crash. And that's no way to go through life. I got to do it. You're right. Thank you, sir.
The only plus point with doing that on your show was that, although admittedly I've now done literally thousands of live streams, because it wasn't going out on my channel, my blood pressure's that little bit lower. And I managed to, with help from, oh, thank you very much, by the way, Righteous Force. Was it Righteous Force that sent me that link? I think it was.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you very much for that, because although his solution wasn't my solution, his solution was for the recordings, and my issue was actually for the streaming section. But it was enough information to put me on the right track to figure out the problem. And because, like I say, it wasn't going out live on my channel, I was relaxed just enough to cope with that on the fly. And that's a new issue. And I've dealt with all sorts of things just before live shows. You know, doing them daily, you're going to have issues. But that was a new issue. And I'm quite proud of myself that I managed to actually solve that with a little bit of help from you, Righteous. So thank you very much for that.
No problem. You're welcome.
Appreciate that, Righteous, man.
But it's stressful. You know, you wouldn't think it. It's just, you know, I'm sat here in my sofa. I'm in my lounge. It's nice and comfy. Kids are all asleep. It should be relatively stress-free, right? No, it isn't. Running a YouTube show is not stress-free by any means.
Now, I'll tell you what, I don't think people understand what it takes to do it. I never did. I'll tell you that much. I just took it for granted. I said, Nathan, there you go. You can handle this. I thought it was easy. Oh, no. No. I got it up close and personal over the past 2 weeks. There's a newfound respect for YouTube providers from me.
Well, do you remember there was a few occasions where you're like, well, can you play this video for me? And I'd be like, oh, God. And, you know, I understood why I'd get exasperation from the person who's just asking. It just seems so simple, right? Just play this video for me. You're like, I haven't actually got the screen real estate to do that, you know, short of put it in front of the live audience, you know, and I need to check it first, you know, so there's a whole number of things that I need to consider and be mindful of before I just play video on a live stream. And if you haven't got physical space to monitor the stream and your guests, which might be in 3 different locations for me, you know, for now it's 2, it's Skype and Discord, but I've got to keep an eye on it all. And if you're monitoring a video that you might be playing to an audience on a bit of screen that you need to monitor the show on, you're like, I don't really want to do that. You know? And people are like, well, why? It's just a video, just play it.
Yeah, that's right. They don't have a clue. Yeah, agreed, sir. Like I said, newfound respect for it. Since I already did it, I know the deal now.
Yeah, certain people make it look easy. Got to be said. It's a shame they've got rid of Hangouts. Hangouts on Air is gone. And that was a means for, although she's not doing shows anymore, people like Patricia Steer to instantly look professional in the presentation. As long as you're prepared to appear on camera, you can look good. You know, it doesn't look so great with just the icons flashing on, but if you're on camera and you had Google Hangouts back in the day, you could just press go on their streaming software and look presentable in a nice format. Now you've got to mess around with OBS and figure out how you're going to make your show look. There's no standardization with Google Hangouts on Air, so it's like everybody's going to look different from this point on. There's no standardization whatsoever.
So what you're saying, she was broadcasting from Hangouts? Is that what you said?
Yeah, so till recently, in fact, for the vast majority of the streaming history of YouTube, you had a piece of software called Hangouts on Air, and that was a piece of software that through YouTube, not always true, right in the beginning, you actually had to do it through Google Hangouts, which is now G+, which is even more confusing, but nevertheless, you'd go into your software that was essentially linked to YouTube and fire up a piece of software called Hangouts on Air, and it had a button on it that said Start Broadcast. Now, if you were in front of your camera and you press that button, it would reach your audience live. Well, that's quite simple, and you could also share a link to get a guest on and have a conversation with them. Well, now that's simply not possible. If I fire up OBS and I get the stream key from YouTube, or I fire up my mobile phone, which is probably the vast majority of people in terms of how they live stream these days, there's no means to actually ask a guest to join you. So in this instance now, obviously you're my guest now, because this is now me and my recording bit. So as my guest, you're on Skype. You're not on YouTube or in Google Hangouts on Air, effectively the branch of YouTube. You're in Skype. Well, the same goes for all the people in Discord. So they're not actually they're no longer affiliated in that respect to YouTube.
I got you. Okay, so it's just Skype and Discord, correct?
Yeah, it's on you as the broadcaster, basically. Make your audience aware, your guests aware of that they're broadcasting live or being recorded, etc., etc. You know, whereas previously in Hangouts you had a little disclaimer. It was much more coherently laid out for their broadcasting purposes, but they've just got rid of that. So your average newbie who doesn't know how to use Discord, doesn't know how to use Skype, doesn't know how to use Hangouts, YouTube in terms of broadcasting, there's no easy, quick route of just being able to do it.
Right, got it. Okay. Hey, give me 5 minutes. I'll be back in 5.
Yeah, sure. I'm gonna round out in 10.
Why'd they get rid of it?
Go ahead.
Why'd they get rid of Hangouts?
I don't know. I've no idea. Perhaps because people kept showing their keys for the show and getting pornography played on YouTube. Perhaps. Could have something to do with it. It will cut down on a massive amount of dross because it was so easy. I'd see live streams with people literally saying nothing. They're just streaming for the sake of it with nothing happening. And that's just a waste of hard drive space as far as I'm concerned. What's the point? If you've not got anything to say, why go live? It's just the novelty of being able to do it quickly and easily. Which you can still do with a mobile phone, but obviously if your mobile phone instantly turns on the camera that is going to be there, you're far more likely to film something that you're actually looking at there and then, rather than just turning on a black screen with your icon and saying nothing for hours on end, which is what people used to do with Hangouts on Air. Which is useless. Who wants to watch that?
Some people still do. They'll turn on their camera and point it at, I don't know, a street light or the dark outside or the wall and say stuff, and it's just like, why is your camera on?
I'm talking about people that don't even talk. They just when Hangouts on Air was around, people would just, because it was so easy, they'd start streaming, they'd press the button, they might even not even have a camera or mic linked up. They're just streaming for the sake of it, streaming absolutely nothing.
Yeah, I'm sure space isn't YouTube's problem as far as that goes. And for Google or Amazon, they have, what is it, like floating barges full of servers and things that get their energy from the waves. And what the powers that be want is total saturation of all events, all, anything anybody says or does, their appliances, their shopping habits. And they know they got to have places to store that stuff. So they are already all over that, or they wouldn't have the ability to eavesdrop like they do and have total surveillance. So I'm sure space isn't their problem, but even they probably have some sort of standard where this information is useless and we have to plow through it anyway, even though we have AI doing it. They probably still are like, yeah, let's weed out the bottom feeders, so to speak, who do what you were just describing.
Right. That and maybe the openings that were left in the program for people to join and play porn would also be a key factor to stopping people using it.
Well, Half Man wants to say space isn't their problem, but space is their problem.
Boom, boom. Dad joke. As profound as he is funny.
Mic check.
Hello.
Hey, I had a question.
Go ahead.
It pertains to natural phenomena. phenomenon, pardon me, optical phenomenon would be a natural phenomenon that you could do a experiment on, correct? Like, let's say a mirage, right?
Yeah, sure. You can try and validate the cause of that effect. Absolutely.
Scientifically.
Yeah. All that science is doing is trying to establish what causes the effect that you're observing. So, what is the cause of that phenomenon?
Bingo. Well, I'm sure we could do tests on that with putting different particles in the air, have it in a sealed environment, and introducing multiple atmospheric variations to it.
Well, no.
And light waves, right?
Unfortunately not. So, if you're trying to establish the cause of the effect, you want a single independent variable, the one thing that you will vary to cause the effect. Now, if it's consisting of multiple different aspects, then you can still put it through the scientific method. That's where you get your theories from. So there's things that don't just have a single cause. Well, those things are still within the parameters of science, but you just have to formulate your methodology to study a single aspect or a single phenomenon at a time.
Yes, and that would be... Oh, I'm sorry.
That's it. As long as you can come up with a theory of Planck growth.
I was going to say, that's where your control variables come in, right? And then you would just test each one individually.
Right, you may be able to cause a particular aspect of the phenomena by varying a given independent variable, but at the end of that isolated hypothesis, the single prediction for the effect in that instance, the method is only complete, i.e. validated empirically, if you cause the effect, but you have to establish specifically what the effect is, because if you just have it as broad as to say Planck growth, well, you're not going to have an independent variable for Planck growth, but you might be able to isolate sunshine, water, and soil, whatever, the individual components to cause an effect, or their individual effect. But that would involve a specific hypothesis for that effect that you're studying in that instance, and then establishing that cause. Once that's done, you can move on to the next. And once you've done that with multiple different aspects of whatever it is you're studying, you'd formulate your theory. So you could have at the end of lots of scientific experimentation in different aspects of different phenomenon, you've got your theory. Make sense?
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. My question more so pertained to optical phenomenon. Do you understand what I mean by that?
Yeah, things that you see.
Yeah, like illusions, mirages, just different aspects of obscured sight,
Yeah,
that nature.
absolutely. If you've got a phenomenon, you can put it through the method.
Aye. Well, it just seems like the ballers just go about this all wrong, and I don't want to give the game away, but science builds on itself. So, I mean, if you have to have a root and a foundation based on the scientific method, performed accurately, verified. I don't know, it seems so simple, but it just seems like there's nobody that can actually approach it and link it in a scientific manner. That being said, I'm meaning things that are actually scientifically verifiable and manipulatable. Thanks.
Right on.
Well, that's the most important part, right? To manipulate it, right?
Yeah.
After you see it, you want to manipulate it to be able to establish the cause of the effect. If you just see it, what are you doing with that?
Well, yeah, there's certain criteria that you have to meet to be an independent variable. Well, number one, it has to be real. Number two, it has to be physically variable and manipulatable by you, the researcher. And three, it is your independent variable in the hypothesis, i.e. is your presumed cause of the phenomena that you study at step one. So once you have that phenomenon pegged down, you can say, this is what I assume is the cause, also known as your independent variable. But that must be real. You're not going to cause it with time. Number 2, it's got to be physically manipulatable. You've got to be able to adjust it, vary it. It's a variable. And number 3, like I say, it's going to form half of your hypothesis. It's going to be your presumed cause, your independent variable in that scientific prediction that's going to be put forth to see if that presumed cause, the real thing that you will physically manipulate, actually causes the effect. Any more? Because I'm going to round out this after show as well now. Any more for any more?
Well, thanks for taking my question. I appreciate it. And thanks for having me.
It's an absolute pleasure. With that, I'll say another huge, massive, enormous thank you to all of today's after show debating BALLBUSTERS panel and, of course, the after show Discord server for making the interactive part of this after show possible. Get my words around it correctly. Be sure to check out NathanOakley.com and the Flat Earth Debate Forum to keep up to date with the community debate. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I'll see you all in the next BALLBUSTERS.
Thank you.